Today, I'm going to look at the recent Trump Zelensky meeting at the Oval Office to talk about different forms of psychopathology that are apparent. I want to first start discussing narcissism, which I think a lot of people misunderstand. People often think it's just about grandiosity, but there's something else to it that's more important. The basic idea is that people seek to have their ideal ego, their good self, recognized by others, and so they have to show off. But underlying this effort to get recognition or admiration is a sense of feeling insecure, which is often hidden by these displays of grandiosity. And so you have to look at both sides, not just the promotion of the self, but the underlying shame or guilt or anxiety. So we'll see how this is presented halfway through the meeting.
Mr. President, I've got two questions for you. You think ultimately your legacy will be the peacemaker and not the president that led this country into another war and ended foreign wars? And I've got a
I hope it will. I mean, I hope I'm going to be remembered as a peacemaker. This would be a great thing if we could do this. I'm doing this.
So this part starts off, you could see Zelensky is very bothered by the fact that people aren't asking real questions and he's not getting a chance to speak. Instead, there are a bunch of reporters who come from right-wing media who are just basically feeding Trump's ego. And the idea is that the way to get Trump's attention or to get him to like you is just to constantly praise him, like he is this person who's going to promote world peace, and that the mistake that Zelensky makes is that he tries to have a rational conversation with Trump, and Trump cannot tolerate any type of criticism or any type of debate. He wants to just be praised, and we see as how this works as this scene continues.
Save lives more than anything else. Second is to save a lot of money, but I consider that to be far less important. So I hope I'm going to thank you, Brian, for that question. It was a nice question. I hope I'll be known and recognized as a peacemaker. This would be a great thing to solve. This is a very dangerous situation. You know, this could lead to a.
So what we see here is something very similar to what Jeff Bezos recently did. He wants the Washington Post to only have opinions that support capitalism and individual liberty. And so clearly, he's basically forcing this large source of information to only feed a libertarian ideology. Once again, the underlying ideology is this antisocial, I would say borderline personality ideology where the only thing that matters is the individual and the fantasy of total freedom and total enjoyment. In this case, capitalism as the expression of the individual's will. And we see here how Trump only wants to surround himself with reporters that will feed his narcissism. And he has recently moved to eliminate different press outlets like the Associated Press because he only wants to hear things that will validate him. So this is a clear aspect of narcissism. Surround yourself only with people who will inflate your ego, who will recognize your greatness, and try to avoid anyone who will criticize you or put you in a difficult situation. Meanwhile, you could see Zelensky getting more and more frustrated because he wants to have a rational conversation because his country has been attacked and he's looking for the support from the United States.
World War. This was headed in the wrong direction. If this election were lost, if we didn't win this election, and we won it by a lot, that was a mandate. We won every swing state. We won the popular vote by millions and millions of votes. We won everything. The districts, you look at the areas of red, take a look at a map. This was a big mandate. And this was one of the things I said, we're going to get this thing settled. If we didn't win, I think this could have very well ended up in a third world war. And that would not That would not have been a good situation. What was your second?
So here we go again, where he basically wants to brag and show that he won this incredible election. Zelensky wants to talk about this very serious issue of him being attacked by Russia and this ongoing war and his need for strong support from the United States. And instead, what he gets is the leader of the United States bragging about how well he did in the election and how only he can solve things, and that he's basically positioning himself as the idolized savior who's going to fix all problems.
My second question for President Zelensky: why don't you wear a suit? You're at the highest. Why don't you wear a suit? You're at the highest level in this country's office, and you refuse to wear a suit. Just want to see if do you own a suit?
Yeah, problems.
A lot of Americans have problems with you not respecting the dignity of this office.
So the second question from the same right-wing journalist asks Zelensky, why is he disrespecting the office by not wearing a suit? Zelensky has said before that he wants to show he's not going to wear a suit until the war is over. He's showing solidarity with his soldiers and the people of Ukraine. And basically, the right-wing media is putting him on the defensive and showing that he's the problem and not Trump, and that he is not worthy of the support and respect of the United States because he is not respecting Trump or the White House. And of course, the irony is no one has been more disrespectful to the White House than Trump and to the traditions of the United States and to the global political system. And so we have this kind of reversal where not only do we see the press trying to inflate and verify Trump's ideal ego, but we also see them lashing out and attacking anyone who doesn't show total support.
I will wear a costume after this war will finish.
Okay.
Yes, maybe one.
Maybe something
like yours. Yes.
That'd be great.
Maybe something better. I don't know.
Yeah.
We will see. Maybe something cheaper. Than yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now, in opposition to Trump, Zelensky shows that he has a sense of humor, that he is listening to other people, that he's trying not to cause conflict. He's even responding to very stupid, aggressive questions. And this might be a good idea on some level, but it also can be seen as a mistake. We'll see how this develops in the interview.
Are you going to send more arms to Ukraine in case there's no peace?
Yeah, we're going to have arms to Ukraine. Yeah, sure. Hopefully, I won't have to send very much because hopefully we're going to have it finished. We're looking forward to finishing this quickly. We're not looking forward to sending a lot of arms. We're looking forward to getting the war finished so we can do other things. But we very much appreciate the agreement because we needed what they had. And we're treating, our country is now treated fairly. Biden didn't do that. He didn't know what the hell he was doing. This should have never happened. This should have never started. But, sure, the answer is yes. But hopefully we won't have to send much because I'm looking forward to getting it done quickly, very quickly.
Does that mean you provide security guarantee?
So once again, we have this notion that on one side, Trump only wants to be flattered and admired, and then he has to constantly attack the past president, which is something that normally you don't do in the White House. A president normally doesn't attack the former president, but here he's openly attacking Biden to make himself look good and to say that he's the only one who has the solution. So he wants to put himself in the position of the idealized cult leader. Only the leader has the solution. Only one person knows what to do. He is going to solve all of the problems. And so we should trust him and we should do what he says.
Mr. President?
I don't want to talk about security yet because I want to get the deal done. You fall into the same trap like everybody else. A million times you say it over and over. I want to get the deal done. Security is so easy. That's about 2% of the problem. I'm not worried about security. I'm worried about getting the deal done. The security is the easy part. Security is very nice. Everybody stopped shooting. And now will Europe put people there? I know France is going to. I know the UK is going to. I know other countries are going to, and they happen to be right next door. We haven't committed, but we could conceivably, we have security in a different form. We'll have workers there digging, taking the raw earth so that we can create a lot of great product in this country.
Of course, two things are going on here. One is that Zelensky is in the middle of a war. He's looking for the support for the United States. And what the United States says is they want them to make a quick deal. And one reason for this quick ceasefire without any guarantees for future security is that Trump wants to make a financial deal. So once again, we see this libertarian focus of capitalism over everything else. What Trump really wants is to cash in on the minerals of Ukraine. And so he wants to make this deal where basically the United States offers some help ending the war, and in exchange, what they're going to get is access to the rare minerals that exist within Ukraine.
So in that sense, you have something, but we haven't determined that yet. I will say, in speaking to France and in speaking to, and they were here, as you know, last week and just the other day, they have committed to a lot of security. I don't think you're going to need much security. I think once this deal gets done, it's over. Russia's not going to want to go back, and nobody.
So this is where the whole thing goes in a negative direction. Up to now, they've been cordial to each other, and Zelensky has really tried to silence his criticisms. But what he cannot tolerate is Trump saying that all we need is a ceasefire and a deal, and we don't have to think about the future security, and that we don't have to blame Russia or make Russia pay for attacking another country. And we can see in the body language of both of them that Zelensky is getting increasingly frustrated, and he finally gets to speak. And when he does speak, he corrects President Trump. And we can see in his body language how Trump actually starts to deflate and get depressed. And here we have the opposite side of narcissism, that when the ideal self is not recognized or admired by the other, the response is withdrawal and then rage. And we see coming up how Trump is going to respond first with a withdrawal, a kind of a depletion of his narcissistic energy.
They don't want to go back. When this deal ends, I really believe this deal is going to be over. Question. Yeah, please go ahead. Go ahead.
Mr. President, thank you. You had both Macron and Keir Starmer at the White House this past week, both of whom praised your courage and conviction to lead the pathway towards peace.
Yes.
Part of that involved, though, re-engaging Russia in diplomatic relations, something that previous leaders lacked the conviction to do so. What gave you the moral courage and conviction to step forward and lead that?
Well, I love this guy.
Here, once again, another softball question, basically praise and praise. And Trump himself says he loves this guy. So what Trump signals what he really wants from reporters is for them just to praise him. And we know that there's this long history of Trump. He only really engages with people who praise him. And so people criticize Zelensky for not using that strategy. And the notion is, with a narcissist, you can never say anything critical. So what you have to do is constantly praise them and hopefully steer them in the right direction. But it's a very difficult personality to deal with, because the narcissist only wants to hear a positive reinforcement of the narcissist's own ego and idolization of ego. And so we've got this difficult situation where Zelensky has something very important to say, and he needs something very important from Trump, but instead he has to constantly listen to Trump being praised by these selected reporters.
Who are you with?
One American News, sir.
Well, that's why I like him. One American News does a great job. I like the question. I think it's a very good question. It's a pathway to peace. It's a pathway to getting something solved. And I feel that as the head of this country, I have an obligation to do that. Plus, we're very much involved. We got involved. It's too bad we got involved because there should have been no involvement because there should have been no war. And there shouldn't have been October 7th. That would have never happened. As you know, Iran was broke. They had no money to give to Hezbollah. They had no money to give to Hamas. They were stone cold broke. And then under Biden, they became rich as hell. They went from no money to $300 billion in a period of 4 years. And they gave a lot of that money away. And you see what happened. And that's a real mess also.
So we see in this kind of split off, polarized mindset, you're either someone who supports him, praises him, or you're someone who is evil or failed. And so he constantly returns to the past, to Biden, to demonize Biden, and to puff himself up. And we see this throughout the interview. And once again, Zelensky wants to talk about the current issue, and instead, Trump basically just wants to go about, once again, bragging and then relitigating the past, and especially the past election and Biden.
To be able to solve. But no, I appreciate your question very much. It's just, I feel I have an obligation to try and do something to stop the death.
If I can answer, yes, if I can answer, sorry, please.
And I do like your clothing, by the way.
Yeah, really?
Even though I think he's a great guy, by the way. But I don't know if you two like each other, but you know what? I think
I like this guy.
I think he's dressed beautiful.
So once again, Trump wants to steer it in this very superficial level. He compliments Zelensky's clothing, probably in a sarcastic way. But at this point, we still have a type of effort on both sides not to let this go in a very bad direction. And so we'll see how this quickly transforms.
I have more serious things than answer on such questions. I will answer on more serious questions if I can. Yeah, so please, about security guarantees and about just ceasefire. We can't just speak about ceasefire and speak. It will not work. Just ceasefire will not never work because I'm like a president. I have this experience, and not only me. Ukraine.
See, at this point, we can see Trump. His whole face changes, his body language changes. He's starting to get frustrated. He's starting to get depressed. He's lost control over the dynamics. He wants this just to be about him showing off his power and his ability to solve problems, and the praise that he gets from his selected reporters. And instead, Zelensky here is actually arguing that we can't have a deal unless we have long-term security. And Trump clearly doesn't want to think about that. He just wants to make a deal as quickly as possible.
Before my presidency, from the 2014, Putin broken 25 times. 25 times he broken his own signature. 25 times he broken ceasefire.
But he never broke to me. He never broke.
No, you were the president.
You
were the president during.
He never broke to me.
In 2016, you've been the president, Mr. President. You've been the president, but he had, of course, not with you, but he had during.
So this is where it really goes bad, because Zelensky is saying that you can't trust Putin. He always breaks ceasefires. And even when you were president, there was a ceasefire ongoing, and that he broke. And Trump, of course, would never want to admit that he did anything wrong or that he can be played by someone else. And so he has to defend himself and Putin against Zelensky. And we see what happens with the narcissist when they no longer get praise or admiration. They first get depressed, and then they lash out with aggression.
Those periods, he had conversations with our side, and we had Normandy format, the France, Germany, Ukraine, and Russia, and he broke.
You just see in his face, he's getting frustrated. Trump, he's moving his mouth around. He's wants to counter what Zelensky is saying. He's feeling personally offended. He the rage is building in him, and he can't tolerate this conversation because now his administration is being called into question, and his relationship with Putin is being called into question, and his judgment is being called into question. And so this is like the worst thing for a narcissist is any type of criticism. And so that's one way that we distinguish a narcissistic personality from, say, a borderline personality, is a leading factor for the narcissist is not only this constant showing off, but this total inability to tolerate any type of criticism, because criticism is the opposite of the praise that the narcissist wants.
25 times. That's why we will never accept just ceasefire. It will not work without security guarantees. Security guarantees, maybe President is right about this document and other, but this document is not enough. Strong army is enough because his soldiers afraid, Putin's soldiers afraid of our soldiers when we're strong enough. If we are not strong enough, if we are empty, if our storage is empty, we can't defend our land. Today, he knows that we have, all the world knows that we have meeting, yes? Why he's using ballistic? Putin today using ballistic on our hospitals, schools, and etc. Ballistic. So he knows that we are here and that President Trump is really have goodwill to stop this war.
Zelensky's still trying to praise Trump as much as he can, but he points out the reality that Putin is still attacking Ukraine while they're having this conversation. And we see Trump literally like pouting and acting like childish, and he's getting more and more upset, and he can't tolerate this injection of reality into the conversation. And we see here how one of the most interesting aspects of the narcissistic personality is that it's really divorced from reality, and how reality has to be kept at a distance at all times, because the main goal is to have the ideal self recognized by another who will only praise and never criticize. And it creates this very kind of fake personality, and it replaces a conversation, a dialogue, and a relationship with reality with this fake relationship that's based on the manipulation of others and the need to constantly be praised.
And you hear now the president. So why he's using? So he doesn't want to stop. He doesn't want. But I hope that we will do it. Really, we'll do it. Security. When we speak about security guarantees, when the Europeans are ready for contingents, they need USA backstop. If there will not be United States, we will not never have any contingents, strong contingents from the Europeans, because they don't want to divide alliance connection between the United States and the main and strongest ally and Europeans. And this is crucial. This is important. That's what we want to speak about very much. This is very important. And air defense.
We can see how it's very uncomfortable for the narcissist to allow other people to speak. Trump just wants to keep on talking. He wants to dominate the conversation. He wants to dominate the dynamic. And now Zelensky has the floor. He's talking about the reality of the situation. He's talking about the truth. And basically, Trump cannot tolerate that because he wants to keep things on the level of this narcissistic dynamic.
So air defense, really, we have big deficit with all these systems, and we need to provide this. We need it very much. Otherwise, Putin will never stop and will go further and further. He doesn't want. He hates us. It's not about me. He hates Ukrainians. He thinks that we are not a nation. He thinks, and he shared these thoughts. I think maybe with your team also. I don't know, but with all the Europeans in media, officially and not, he always said that there is no such country, such nation, such language, and such life like Ukrainian. No, he really doesn't respect all the Ukrainians, and he wants to destroy us. And you are right, Mr. President. That's 2%. This document, maybe other documents. It's a very good start, very good, but it will not enough to stop this person.
So this fundamental conflict here is that Zelensky wants to state the truth that Putin is this horrible, aggressive autocrat who attacked an innocent nation, and that security deal or the minerals deal will only represent 2%. For Trump, it's 98% of the deal. It's the ceasefire and the minerals deal. He doesn't care about the future. He just wants to get a job done and get the deal done and get recognized for being this great peacemaker and deal maker and the person who can solve everything. Um, but Zelensky is not letting him have this deal, and he's not going along with Trump's whole discourse. And this is why so many people attacked Zelensky. They thought that he should just boost Trump and praise Trump and get what he needs. And it's very interesting because in the history of psychoanalysis, we have the same issue that the theory of narcissistic personality disorder really started when therapists and analysts realized that there was a very difficult type of patient who was very hard to work with because you couldn't really say anything. Because if you said anything, it would be, as an analyst, it would be seen as a direct attack. It would be seen as a harsh criticism. And so, since the narcissist only wants to be praised, a lot of narcissists go into therapy and they just are seeking validation and they don't want to deal with reality or any criticism or any real issues. And so, literally, this is what forced a lot of therapists to turn to a model that instead of trying to discover repressed truths and find the reality of the situation, a lot of therapists turn to what they would call an idolizing transference, in the sense that, like Heinz Kohut, they would just try to praise the patient or keep the patient talking by never criticizing the patient or never bringing up uncomfortable issues or never trying to correct anything the patient said. But the problem with this type of relationship is it's impossible to get anything to change, and it just reinforces the underlying dynamics of the narcissism.
Russia paid to rebuild Ukraine?
Mr. President, under these circumstances,
Did Russia pay to rebuild Ukraine?
They had a face question. This is the rule. This is the rule of the war. This is the rule of the war. During all the centuries, all the history, this is the rule of the war. Who began, those pay. This is the rule. Putin began this war. He has to pay all money for innovation. He has to pay. Of course, some Russian assets, what we have in Europe, about 300 billions, we can use them. We can use for innovation and buy military support from the United States also. We can do it, but it's not enough. It's not enough.
Do you envision a trilateral summit with Putin and President Zelensky?
Wait, 1 second.
I asked this question that you didn't like because I wanted to know if you want to position yourself in the middle between Russia and Ukraine or on the Ukraine side.
No, I'm in the middle. I want to solve this thing. I'm for both. I want to get it solved. And it's wonderful to speak badly about somebody else, but I want to get it solved. If we could.
It's very ironic that Trump is basically criticizing Zelensky for speaking badly of Putin when throughout the interview and throughout his career, one of the major things that Trump does is talk badly about other people. But he wants to basically position himself, he says, in the middle in order to get a deal done. But of course, this requires totally repressing the truth and history and treating Zelensky and Putin as equals and forgetting the fact that it is Putin who attacked Zelensky's country, and he wants to pretend that he can just play this neutral mediator. But in reality, we see more and more his alliance is really with Putin and not with Zelensky.
Solve it, great. If we can't solve it, they're going to have to fight it out, and who knows what's going to happen. But I want to see it get solved.
May I follow up? There's one more question about U.S. troops in Europe. After Russian invasion of Ukraine, your predecessor sent additional troops to Eastern Europe, including Poland, my country.
Yeah.
Are you committed to keeping these troops on the eastern flank of NATO in the future?
I'm very committed to Poland. I think Poland is really
country, richest country in the world, the country that has great music, great movies, great muscle cars, but also as a force for good. Do you? And now I'm talking with my friends in Poland, and they are worried that you align yourself too much with Putin. What's your message for them?
well. If I didn't align myself with both of them, you'd never have a deal. You want me to say really terrible things about Putin and then say, "Hi, Vladimir, how are we doing on the deal?" That doesn't work that way. I'm not aligned with Putin. I'm not aligned with anybody. I'm aligned with the United States of America and for the good of the world. I'm aligned with the world, and I want to get this thing over with. You see the hatred he's got for Putin. It's very tough for me to make a deal with that kind of hate. He's got tremendous hatred, and I understand that, but I can tell you the other side isn't exactly in love with, him either.
By pointing out the hatred that Zelensky has for Putin, once again, Trump denies reality, denies history, and shows his complete insensitivity and lack of empathy. And here we have more of the autocratic, borderline part of his personality, this notion that he's completely insensitive to the suffering of others. And so there's a tremendous debate within psychoanalysis and diagnostic categories of the difference between narcissistic personality disorder and the borderline personality disorder. And so one of the defining features we saw in the first part that Trump was showing the narcissistic part of his personality by constantly seeking out praise and responding negatively to any type of criticism or judgment or injection of reality. When he turns to the more borderline part of his personality, now we see his response is aggression and a lack of empathy for the suffering of others.
So it's not a question of alignment. I'm aligned with the world. I want to get the thing set. I'm aligned with Europe. I want to see if we can get this thing done. You want me to be tough? I could be tougher than any human being you've ever seen. I'd be so tough, but you're never going to get a deal that way. So that's the way it goes. All right, one more.
So once again, he's showing his dark side here, this idea that he can be tougher than anyone else ever, that people don't want to see his toughness. So here we start getting the threats coming out. But one of the things that's interesting is that, of course, he's undermining Europe, he's undermining global stability, and he wants to deny all of this and pretend that he's there to help Europe, to help the world, to help everyone, and that he's a peacemaker.
Question.
I want to respond to this. So look, for 4 years in the United States of America, we had a president who stood up at press conferences and talked tough about Vladimir Putin, and then Putin invaded Ukraine and destroyed a significant chunk of the country. The path to peace and the path to prosperity is maybe engaging in diplomacy. We tried the pathway of Joe Biden of thumping our chest and pretending that the president of the United States' words mattered more than the president of the United States' actions. What makes America a good country is America engaging in diplomacy. That's what President Trump is doing.
So here we have this great intervention by J.D. Vance, the vice president, where he once again attacks the past President Biden, and he is trying to argue that really Trump is a diplomat, that America just wants diplomacy, and that America is not aggressive, and he wants to basically support his president. And we see here how it's so important for the aggressive leader to have these supporters who will do whatever the leader says and will back up the leader, and once again will praise the leader. And so at this point, J.D. Vance is playing the role of just echoing and affirming whatever Trump says and to try to rationalize what Trump is doing.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So he occupied our parts, big parts of Ukraine, part of East and Crimea. So he occupied it on 2014. So during a lot of years, so I'm not speaking about just Biden, but those time was Obama, then President Obama, then President Trump, then President Biden, now President Trump, and God bless, now President Trump will stop him. But during 2014, nobody stopped him. He just occupied and took. He killed people. You know what the contact
2015.
2014.
2014 and 2014.
2014.
Yeah. So
I was not here.
Yeah, but
that's exactly right.
Yes, but during 2014 till 2022, yeah, the situation the same. The people have been dying on the contact line. Nobody stopped him. You know that we had conversations with him, a lot of conversation, my bilateral conversation, and we signed with him, me, like a new president. In 2019, I signed with him the deal. I signed with him, Macron and Merkel, we signed ceasefire. Ceasefire. All of them told me that he will never go. We signed him with gas contract. Yes, but after that, he broken the ceasefire. He killed our people and he didn't exchange prisoners. We signed the exchange of prisoners, but he didn't do it. What kind of diplomacy, JD, you are speaking about? What do you mean?
I'm talking about the kind of diplomacy that's going to end the destruction of your country.
Yes, but if
Mr. President, with respect, I think it's disrespectful for you to come into the Oval Office and try to litigate this in front of the American media. Right now, you guys are going around and forcing conscripts to the front lines because you have manpower problems. You should be thanking the president for trying to bring an end to this conflict.
So now Vance fully moves into attack dog mode, protecting his president, also denying reality, creating this alternative series of facts in order to put Zelensky on the defensive, to show that Zelensky is actually the problem, not Putin being the problem or Trump being the problem. And so he's trying to, once again, show to the president also that he'll do anything to support the president, even if it's completely irrational or false. And we have this horrible situation where this President Zelensky is there and his country is being attacked. It has been attacked. And instead of the United States coming to his support, now they're attacking him. And JD Vance is bringing up a series of partial truths and non-truths in order to counterattack Zelensky.
Ukraine, that you say what problems we have.
I have been to.
Count one.
I've actually watched and seen the stories, and I know what happens is you bring them on a propaganda tour, Mr. President. Do you disagree that you've had problems bringing people into your military? And do you think that it's respectful to come to the Oval Office of the United States of America and attack the administration that is trying to prevent the destruction of your country?
I think that this notion of respect that we keep on hearing Vance go back to, this really fits into his personality, this idea that he's constantly resenting other people. He constantly feels like he's not getting the respect he deserves. There's this real underlying sense that he has come from these very difficult, humble beginnings, and that he is constantly being criticized or judged by elites, and that he wants to show his power by getting revenge. And by bonding with Trump, it's the perfect way for him to basically attack other people and attack them for this kind of old idea of you're not being respectful, meaning you're not just submitting to whatever the president says, and you're not respecting the sanctity of the Oval Office, when clearly Trump is one of the major ones who doesn't really respect traditions or any type of regular values.
Let's start from the beginning. Sure. First of all, during the war, everybody has problems. Even you, but you have nice ocean and don't feel now, but you will feel it in the future. God bless.
You don't know that.
God bless. God bless. You will not have a war.
Don't tell us what we're going to feel. We're trying to solve a problem. Don't tell us what we're going to feel.
I'm not telling you.
Because you're in no position to dictate that.
That's exactly what
you're in no position to dictate what we're going to feel.
So here we see the full outrage that Trump is saying, oh, you have no position to question us, to criticize us, that you're in the position of wanting something, and so how dare you question our intentions? And we can see how things go really bad right here because Trump is feeling personally attacked and criticized, and he's basically responding to Vance's aggressive attack on Zelensky by further attacking Zelensky.
We're going to feel very good.
Feel influenced.
We're going to feel very good and very strong.
You will feel influence.
You're right now not in a very good position. You've allowed yourself to be in a very bad position, and he happens to be right about it.
From the very beginning of the war.
You're not in a good position. You don't have the cards right now. With us, you start having cards. Right now, you don't. You're playing cards. You're playing cards.
It's very interesting in this notion of playing cards, because we see here this idea, and this is more of the borderline personality, that everything is kind of a game where people are just objects to be manipulated, and that it's a game of taking risk and gambling, and it's abstract, and Trump will just not let Zelensky continue to talk. He is talking over him. He wants to show his power, and he wants to dominate Zelensky. And here we have this notion that some say this is all a setup, that they planned this out, that Vance was going to attack Zelensky. But I think it's more of the psychology of Trump and the fact that Zelensky dared to question Trump, and this made Trump very, very defensive and made him aggressively lash out. And since he cannot tolerate any type of criticism, he acted with aggression. And then in response, we see Vance also acting with aggression to bond with Trump, this type of male bonding that we see in the culture, and finding a shared victim of shared object to displace their aggression onto. And once again, I think it's really important to understand this interaction. We can't just look at history, although history is very important here, and we can't just look at politics. We have to look at the underlying psychopathology shaping the leaders and shaping the people involved. And so we have this idea that, Trump is a narcissistic personality, but he also has borderline features, and that through their interaction, we see how Vance also has these borderline aspects that he is attacking, and he wants to express his aggression and bond with Trump and defend Trump, and to basically show his willingness to subject himself to whatever Trump says. So thank you very much.